since we are joined by the amazing Journe Guy, I can't help but wonder, what are we going to talk about today, Alex?
How about let's talk about Journe and the immense attraction that Journe is having right now.
Yes.
I think that's a great idea.
Let's
do it.
So how is it? And let's talk about a retail level before like moving on to like auction results or the gray market or anything like that, right? How come today at a retail level there is just so much demand for the product where when, I don't know, let's say 10 years ago, 2016, I don't think that you'd be hard pressed to get anything. I mean, like even a Chrono Blue was like 2 or 3 months on the wait list, if that.
Yeah.
And black labels galore, everything was available. Boutique editions galore, everything was available. So maybe you could help us out there. What's happened? What's changed?
There is the same amount of supply and a very dramatically increasing demand.
Driven by what?
Driven by, I mean, all sorts of things. First of all, I would probably say there is a more of awareness in the watch world. There are people that are looking at watches in general as collectibles and they're getting into it. And then you have a brand new sector of people who are speculators and investors. And there are people that, I mean, you could buy a watch as a luxury product today for a variety of reasons. But it's still feeding into a limited supply. And therefore, demand is through the roof. There are the same production output of roughly 1,000 watches a year. And I can imagine every boutique, I mean, you mentioned the Chrono Blue. The Chrono Blue, I wouldn't be surprised if there was 2,000 people who are requesting it at a boutique per year. And that boutique is receiving maybe 8 watches.
Are you saying 2,000 requests per boutique per year?
For that watch? Probably.
Wow.
I heard once that if Journe were to produce every chronomètre bleu that he has received orders for, it would take him over 25 years to complete, and if he would only be making chronomètre bleus.
So like that whole 1,000 watch production was just for chronomètre?
Just chronomètre bleu would take him 25 years to... But just to go back to about 10 years ago, every watch from every brand, maybe the Daytona, you had to wait a couple of months. Everything else, you walked into the shop and you had it.
Well, I think Daytona was still more than a couple of months, to be fair, right? Okay, fine. Maybe that's not fair. What has changed in the last 5 years? Okay, because like I think that so the whole watch market kind of went like that, right? Yeah. But while it went like that, it felt to me like Journe was kind of like going like this, and then somewhere here, I don't know, 2022 or 3, it just like went vertical. Like things just like, again, like this is what it feels like to me.
Yeah, I think if I may just jump in, Journe Guy.
Please do.
No, there's the one thing, I mean, if we go back long time ago, 25 years ago, early 2000s, in the watch nerd circles, to be considered like the cool guy, the one who has like the good watches, there was you need to have 4 watches, 4 models. One was a Patek Philippe 3970 perpetual calendar chronograph, which was the coolest watch in the world. You needed to have a Lange datograph, a Philippe Dufour Simplicity.
Wow. Okay, you want to read
a resonance from Journe.
Wow.
And this is in 2000, 2001 already. So the watch collecting community and obviously the prices 25 years ago had absolutely nothing to do with the prices today. I mean, in 2001, 2002, you wanted to buy a Simplicity, I think it was 35,000 francs.
Yeah.
And you just had to wait 3-4 years or whatever for Dufour to make you one. Journe, I think it's more around 2015-16 that it started really picking up. You could see some of those rare resonance or the rare tourbillon, the special limited edition ones, going above $100,000, $150,000, etc. on the secondary market. And then obviously COVID had an effect where everybody was now interested in watches. We saw some of the examples selling at Only Watch with the tantalum cases and the blue dials going for rather interesting prices, but still under £1,000,000. But you're like, wow, okay, because at the time the market was Patek and at Only Watch it was Patek, and in the general market it was Patek and Rolex. And then came 2020, and there was the first subscription model in platinum and pink gold, which sold about £1,000,000. And I think it opened the eyes of a lot of people who were not aware of Journe, of which this brand was. And all of a sudden you had a lot of people who already had all the big brands, all the mainstream brands, and who were looking for something different, something rarer. And Journe is the perfect candidate. Journe, the thing with him, the very positive thing is like, look, in 25 years, he's made what, about 20,000 watches?
Yep.
In that area. So he's made enough watches to have a market, but there's so few that they're still very rare.
Yep. And it's a very unique placement. I don't think any other brand or manufacturer of that size has really filled that slot where you are the largest of the small artisanal independents, but you're also the smallest of the big brands.
Yeah.
It's very unique, and I think it helps build a bit of a niche market within a niche market as well.
Are they the largest of the smaller brands? I want to say Richard Mille produces more watches than them.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
I think Richard Mille is what, around 5,000 watches?
Yeah, 4 or 5, yeah. But it's funny because like Journe in the last 25 years has produced less watches than Patek will have produced this year by a third, right? Or they would have produced a third of what Patek is going to produce this year. And obviously Patek with the demand that they have, right? So like if even a part of that demand shifts to Journe, I can understand. So what you're saying is that some auction results in the market kind of like open the eyes of collectors to like, someone's paying 7 figures for like a brand I've never heard of.
Yeah.
Let me look into it.
I think so.
Oh, it's cool. Let me get into it.
And I think it's really well deserved because as much as, when we had this discussion a couple of years ago on all this hyped watches, with the steel watches with integrated bracelets, which were selling for crazy amounts, I don't think Journe is a hype. I think Journe is very well, it's deserved. Because, look at it. The guy, his first watch was a tourbillon with a remontoir, with a constant force escapement. Nobody had done that in a wristwatch. His second wristwatch was the resonance. So, the guy it's called invented and made, and he is inventing. And we had this discussion earlier on about innovation in the watch world. The guy's innovating. He's creating new things. There's not that many brands today who can say my first, my second, my third watch. The third watch, the Octa movement. He made a movement with a 5-day power reserve that could have integrated complications by keeping the same dimensions. That's brilliant.
He's a watchmaker who's invented probably more than 35, 40 different movements in his career that most brands haven't.
Yeah. Patek. Anyways, so yeah, it is interesting to see like where Journe has come, right? And I think this brings me to the next point, right? Okay, obviously that demand is being sustained, and obviously a lot of people have like turned their eyes towards Journe. And at a retail level, yes, like the regular average, let's say Nautilus buyer, Royal Oak buyer, or maybe even like let's say Calatrava buyer and Jules Audemars is no longer in production, so let's say Cold. Or Vacheron Patrimony buyer is also now looking at Journe as like a contender, right? Yeah. So like if I'm gonna get a chronograph, like do I get a Daytona, do I get a AP offshore Royal Oak, or do I get like a Santigraph? Okay, cool. So now Journe is contending in that field, right? In the mainstream, all right, with the masses. My question is, okay, so we kind of know who's buying it at a retail level. on an auction level, who's paying $1 million for a vertical tourbillon?
I ask myself that question all the time.
Well, $1 million for a vertical tourbillon, nobody, because I don't think there has been one at $1 million.
Oh, you sold one at $1 million.
Not a vertical.
Yes.
Yeah, you did.
In francs. That you just
Yes,
okay.
yes.
This is the conversion rates.
I mean, not by much,
It
but
was 700 francs. It was for a black label.
it was 946,000 US dollars. All
Yeah. So I'm thinking since
I mean,
I'm
I know
thinking
who,
in Swiss francs.
who
I
did
mean, the
that.
guy was in the room anyway.
The guy
but-
was in the room, yes.
So he's just told me that someone has put a watch in the market for sale, which is a boutique edition vertical tourbillon. Okay, for $1.9.
dollars.
I believe there's two of them at the moment.
So who's buying those?
I mean,
Like, help me out. Like, you know the collectors. You know the collectors.
So
I obviously don't know anything.
I think the thing is, first of all, out of auction price is whatever somebody is asking and whatever somebody is willing to pay.
There you
And
go.
if it's a buyer's market, if I say, you know what, I'm going to sell you my bracelet here for $30,000, and you say, okay, you know, whatever, I want it because there's another one. It's that's what the price is. At auction, we always say one price. It can be just an accident. You need to have more or less 3 times a repetition of a price around that range to say, okay, this is the market.
Okay, you need 3 data points.
So, for example, this vertical tourbillon, if tomorrow somebody comes to me and says, you know what, I have a black label tourbillon and I want $1 million, I'm not sure that that's the price today. Once you sell enough to say, okay, there is a pattern, it wasn't an accident, it was just not 2 guys who definitely wanted it that day. So for me, that price you mentioned, it is not today a market price. And I don't think that a boutique edition is a market price. The reason being, you can actually buy it still at the boutique. It's still being produced. For example, having, I don't know, a subscription model or a resonance or a tourbillon 38 millimeters or a mother of pearl, whatever, selling at a very high price, it doesn't shock me because there's not another one. And they were all made in very small numbers. Here, I mean, you know, the guy asked for $1.9 million, maybe tomorrow he'll ask for $3 million. You just need one guy who says, oh, you know what, whatever. I think it's worth that and I'm going to buy it. But that, for me, is not a market price.
I think the biggest challenge, at least what I face today when people ask me, you know, what's this worth, is it's difficult to find a proper layout for the prices. And the reason being is I look at like something like a black label tourbillon vertical and I'm like, well, okay, a mutual friend of ours referred to it as a tic-tac. You need to have a tic-tac at an auction. So two prices have to be somewhat the same. And if that's selling at 1, or like a subscription number resonance is selling at 4, then why is that watch still priced at a lot less? Mm-hmm. It should be a lot more because it's more rare, more important, right? And so by comparison, I think everything is still somewhat of a...
it's moving around.
It is. Yeah.
It is because it's very new and nobody knows exactly where things are going. But I have a lot of clients who ask me, is this sustainable? And I'm not saying this because I'm at an auction house, but I'll take my auction house cap off.
Are you allowed to do that?
And talk as a watch lover or a collector.
Alex G.
I really think that, you know, today, Journe, the early pieces, the special dials, the limited editions, those are even at their high numbers, they're going to continue going up. But, you know, everybody's just like, oh my God, this watch sold for $1 million or $2 million or $3 million. Nobody's surprised if a Picasso, and Picasso made more paintings than Journe has ever done watches, sells for 5, 10, 20, 30 million. And believe me, look, this year in 2025, there were 2 watches that sold above $10 million. It took the auction market for watches over 40, 45 years to have one watch sell over 10 million. And I think as we go forward, you'll see more and more watches hitting 10 million, and then one day we'll see watches hitting 20, 30, 40 million, because there's no reason for they're not lesser pieces of art. They're still art, but they're also art that functions, gives you pleasure, and you can walk around with them and take them wherever you want. Okay, granted, a 40 million franc watch, you may not take it out with you to a restaurant or whatever, but you can wear it. And I think we're
Are you telling me that we, in our lifetimes, may see the legendary 9-figure watch?
I hope so. Well, you may, because you're much younger than I am. Okay. But no, nine figures, I think, is still, I mean, it's crazy high. But I think, we'll see more and more watches hitting the $10 million mark. Because, if they're rare, if they're historically relevant, if their quality is there, et cetera, et cetera. Not like just every watch. It's like art pieces, not because you have some guy who's the cousin of your son's best friend who's a good artist, doesn't mean that's gonna be art. But I think the rare, cool stuff will go up, and we're gonna get to a point where these watches are going to be exactly considered as a work of art, and nobody's going to raise an eyebrow because a watch sold for such and such amount.
It's an interesting comparison you made with art, because on one hand, yes, I get it, like a painting sells for like 50, 60, 100, $200 million. Like, yes, I mean, I don't want to say no one bats an eye, but like, yeah, I mean, that happens, right? But like, we've been conditioned to accept that happens, right? And even with cars, like over the last 10 years, like, yeah, it happens. I feel like we're not all there with watches, though.
The only reason you use the word condition, and it's correct, because look, art, people have been collecting art for over 200 years. Cars, it's been an object of collection since the early 20th century, since basically cars were invented. Wristwatch collecting dates from the 80s. I mean, it's a baby compared to the other objects of collection. And look at it this way: people used to collect silverware, pipes, stuff that nobody cares about anymore today. So it is an object that is surviving. It's an element of collection that is surviving, but it's still in its youth. It's still a baby compared to art or cars.
Give us your take.
I'm just kind of thinking, the art world I'm not too accustomed with, but I did ask the exact same question that you asked to ChatGPT not too long ago, literally about 72 hours ago. Cars have a larger audience, I think, and people have always been more comfortable spending 7 figures on a car because it's a bigger object. At the end of the day, it's easier to comprehend. But how many cars actually sell for 8 figures and 9 figures today?
Not a lot, but there are.
There are. They're still headlines. They're not, cars. It's not a normal figure. Today, at least to me, $1 million watch at an auction is not even, I wouldn't get up and clap for it anymore, to be honest.
Okay. He's the guy. He's the guy. Like we're all clapping in the auction, and Oral Bax is like really pissed off at one person. That's the guy.
No, you know why? Because now you're used to it. It's
You're
no
so
longer a
used
big
to it.
deal to have that.
No, it's $1 million. Like, really? That's all you can pay for this? Like, well, come on.
Loser.
Yeah, like he's just paid for 4. He's someone else has paid 4. And the prices are so unexpected, but we can list the watches that have. It's easy to come up with. We have the $31 million was a Grandmaster chime, right? Yeah. And I think it's.
But it was for charity.
That was for charity auction. But someone did pay for that at an auction like that. There was a bidding contest for that, and even though it was for charity,
I doubt the owner was like, I can donate $1 million more to charity. I don't think. Again, maybe it was. I don't know.